There was another dominant economic issue in play: the high price of gas and the best way to find energy alternatives and energy independence. You'll of course recall, and who can forget, Sarah Palin and her chance of drill baby drill. Well, that chant may be gone, but the issue isn't. And today Mitt Romney tried to refocus his campaign on his energy plan for America.
Tight oil. That's oil that comes from places where you have to use fracking technology to help get it out, whether that's the Bakken Range in North Dakota or whether it's right here in New Mexico.
He likes the fracking, and much of the Romney plan focused on clearing the way for new energy drilling in more places, whether that means oil or fracking and natural gas, options that were quickly criticized by the White House.
The Republican approach is essentially one that is written by or dictated by big oil, and it focuses almost entirely on oil and fossil fuels.
So those are the sound bites. What are the details? Well, Mitt Romney today only focused on a few highlights of his overall energy plan, but at the top of the list, as I said, was more drilling. Specifically, Romney called for more federal land and offshore waters to be opened up for drilling. And to get there, he offered up a twist on the current process. Romney wants states to be able to decide whether to allow drilling on federal land inside each state. You got a federal park in your state, the governor would then have the final say. Right now, only Washington can sign off on such projects. Romney also pushed for new partnerships and pipelines with our neighbors in Mexico and Canada, including, of course, the Keystone Pipeline project. And then, of course, beyond the proposal come the claims. Romney claims that his energy policies would create 3 million jobs, generate an additional $1 trillion in government revenue, and lower the price of energy. Critics cast doubt on the job numbers, and they question what, if any, impact added drilling would have on the price of energy. They also point out the CBO estimates that new drilling on federal lands would only generate up to about a fifth of what Romney claims. And they say Romney's plan overlooks one key cost. That would be the cost of environmental damage and environmental cleanup. Energy policy in 2012 and this portion of the debate, does that move the needle at all for anybody? Or do you think that this is just one of those things that's playing to the base?
Here's a needle mover. When I looked at the Keystone XL pipeline's design, as it snakes its way through Montana, I was looking at today, from Nebraska, et cetera, it is shocking that we would have an issue with oil and have a machinery set up like that, where over the last couple of decades it's been fine for the rest of the world to send oil all over the place, and we applaud them. But we can't bite the bullet on a system that's in place. I think that shows what this election's about. There's a great division in the country. There's a lack of resolution on the energy issue.
I'm going to step in here just for a fact check here, because it's not that the president is opposed to the pipeline.
I didn't mention the president. I mentioned us.
It's the expedited approval of the pipeline with things like environmental studies being tossed out the window.
This is exactly my point. What I'm trying to say is from the citizen's point of view, who doesn't care about all of this bureaucratic layering, it's shocking to see what is possible and how it is not operating at all. It's an indictment of both parties. This can't just be red-blue, you did it and you didn't do it. There is a government at large not serving people. And that's what that pipeline speaks to, I think, when you look at it.
I think it also speaks to the fact that for all accounts, the industry, the oil and gas industry is talking about 20,000 jobs. You have to understand something. The pipeline is already built. What they're trying to do is get the State Department to approve, because it's in Canada coming down. They're trying to get the State Department to approve it. Nebraska has had several environmental impact studies, and they're supportive of it. This whole punting down the road, the reason that they're not approving the Keystone Pipeline, and I guarantee you if Obama wins Dallas to Donuts, that thing's going to get approved the next day, is because he's placating to the environmentalists. Why? Because he's supportive of natural gas drilling, hydraulic fracturing. He thinks it's a good thing. It's a good way for us to stop consistently going to war overseas and relying on OPEC and paying $4 a gallon for gas. So in order to do that, he's like, well, I'm not going to do the Keystone Pipeline, but I will support hydraulic fracturing.
Who are these environmental voters going to go for if not for Obama? I mean, is he afraid? Is he placating them that they're going to, instead of staying home?
They're not going to stay home, but he wants to just keep friends. He's tired of people complaining and picketing in front of the White House and in state houses, and it's really just pandering to a base of people that's already going to vote for him.
He's also low on dough. Environmental people donate money when the other guy's outbidding you, so it's probably good fundraising.
I think that Americans, your original question was, does any of this move the needle for Americans?
Does it have the energy to move the needle?
Yes, and I think it does. People want to hear about jobs. So any job is a good thing. But I think that Americans don't want to hear about less environmental regulation. And the Republican platform, to a degree, is let's give the companies, you know, free use, and let's pull back the EPA. And that is where I think I agree with what you just said in terms about the politics of this and the election. But I think that Americans do not want to see situations where there's less EPA protections.
Many Americans would love to have less EPA regulation. Many states around the country are handcuffed with regulations.
A lot of those are environmental regulations.
Yeah.
I mean,
right, but that's coming from the Republican Party. It's not coming from Democratic leadership.
Coming from job creators. Come from people who want to build businesses and want to put 10 more jobs, and then they can't expand the factory because the paperwork has to go through Washington. And you know.
Well, I think that most Americans, one recent issue is fracking. And nobody wants to approve fracking without knowing what the environmental impact is going to be, whether our drinking water will be brown and poisonous a year from now.
Let me give a different example, because fracking is a little bit fractious with the debate that we've had lately. Yeah, that one just laid on a T for me. But let's say offshore drilling. I mean, I used to live in Texas. I lived on the coast of Texas, and you would see the oil wells off the coast. And, you know, it was business, but it also kind of marred the view a little bit. You think people in New Jersey, you think people in California want oil wells off the coast, visibly off the coast of their...
They don't even want windmills. They don't want solar. They don't want nuclear. They don't want anything. Everybody wants their car to drive on leaves. It's insane. You know, and the answer is that you're going to have... Where do you think the gas comes from in your car? Where do you think the oil comes from for your house? From leaves, yeah. And
I can't drive my car on leaves. It won't work.
only in the fall. We're gonna take a quick break. We're asking you to keep this conversation going online. Here's our question for you tonight. Romney on energy, will drill baby drill really work? We're asking that in both ways. Do you think it'll work as an energy policy? Do you think it'll work as a political tactic in this election? There you see how to get in touch with us. Facebook.com/Richard French Live, Twitter.com, we're at Rich French Live, and we'll get some of your responses in a later episode of RFL. When we come back, we reshift our focus to Medicare. Although Paul Ryan's claim to fame before mid-August was his Medicare plan, it's much less popular than you might think. That's next. Stay with us.